The Supra is starting to look really good, but unfortunately, the rear end it's lacking a little bit. What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. So if you guys have been following along, you'll know we've been transforming this Supra with a full carbon fiber kit from Keys Motorsports. In the last video, we installed this super aggressive front lip as well as some really aggressive side skirts. But since the front end of this car and the side is looking really aggressive, it's just kind of emphasizing how, let's just call it stock, the rear end is looking. It just looks a lot more bland in comparison. Now, I hinted at this in the last video, so if you guys didn't watch that one, I would highly recommend watching that one first. But I hinted in that video that we're gonna be working on the rear end today, so that's exactly what we're gonna be doing. We're gonna make this thing look that much more aggressive and just flow with the rest of this car. Now, this isn't the end of the transformation. We still have more to do, but this is gonna be like the last major parts. And I think after these parts specifically, this Supra is gonna look absolutely insane. So I'm sure you can already guess what we're gonna be doing today, but if you can't, we're gonna be installing a super aggressive rear diffuser. And by the way, that's not the only thing we're gonna be doing to this rear end today, so stay tuned to the end of the video so you can see everything. But I wanna start off with the diffuser because I think that is gonna make the biggest difference on the rear end. And here it is, the new diffuser. Now, I don't know how much you guys can tell with it on the ground like this and not on the car, but this thing is super aggressive. Just look at the sides over here. You can see how much more this piece is gonna kind of like beefing up this area over here. If you guys can't tell, something that's really cool about this diffuser is it's gonna sit underneath the exhaust. So it's gonna create like more of like a race car or a sports car feel. So I don't wanna waste any time. I just wanna get to installing this thing. So I'm gonna start off by giving our carbon piece a nice wipe down. We'll line up some 3M tape so we can stick this thing onto the car. Then we'll give the car itself a nice wipe down just to get rid of all that dirt and debris. And afterwards, we're gonna try to line up the piece best we can to make sure it fits perfectly. Now this step you can do before sticking on the piece. I like to do it after. Just heat it up with a heat gun so that way the adhesive is nice and soft and sticky, just to make sure it holds on even better. And then of course, I'm gonna repeat the same process on the other side. All right, boys, we ran into our first issue with this diffuser. None of those little side splat things, whatever you wanna call them, those actually look really good. You guys can see just how much more aggressive it makes the rear end. Normally that little thing ends over here, but now it's going all the way and it doesn't interfere with my TLG mud flap, which is nice. But unfortunately, what we do have an issue with is this exhaust, specifically the exhaust tips. So this obviously is an aftermarket exhaust from AWE. It sounds amazing, it looks sick, and it even has massive exhaust tips, but sometimes bigger isn't always better because these exhaust tips, as cool as they look, they're kind of interfering with the rest of our diffuser. Like I said in the beginning, this piece is supposed to go from each end and go underneath the exhaust, if I can kind of show you with one hand there. But unfortunately, these exhaust tips are so big that it's hitting it. I'm like trying to hold this up with one hand, so it's probably hard to tell, but yeah, it's hitting the exhaust tips, thankfully not by much. So what I'm gonna do is grab a 13 mil, which I don't even have the bit on it yet, but I will eventually. I'm gonna grab a 13 mil and then undo the exhaust tip and then hopefully tilt it up a little bit, just enough, and then retighten it, and hopefully the rest of the diffuser can fit again. I say again like it fit before. Obviously, if you have a stock exhaust or not these massive exhaust tips, you'll be fine. I'm hoping this works, but yeah, that might be an issue. The other thing is, I wonder if the heat from the exhaust tips will kind of destroy the diffuser. There's only one way to find out. So I'm gonna take my 13 mil. Just kidding. I'm gonna take my 11 mil. Just kidding again. I'm gonna take my 10 mil and undo the exhaust tip. Now, why did I take it off completely? I can't remember, but we're gonna try to line this up a little better, tighten everything down, and before we move forward, I'm gonna test fit the diffuser just to make sure everything works. Unfortunately though, it's still hitting the exhaust tip, so we have to move to plan B. I'm gonna completely remove the exhaust tips and just leave them off the car. We'll figure that out later. Right now, I just really wanna get this diffuser on, so unfortunately, goodbye exhaust tips. With the exhaust tips out of the way, we can start assembling the diffuser with some of the provided hardware. Now, these carbon fins are going to just simply cover the OEM ones. That's because the OEM ones aren't going to be long enough to connect to this new diffuser. Once again, I'm going to test it out and make sure that everything fits.
Now, unfortunately, I'm installing this by myself, so I'm gonna use the jack to help me hold up the driver's side while I work on the passenger side. So just like everything else, we're gonna give it a nice wipe down. We'll line it up with some 3M tape. We're gonna stick it onto the side splats that we already installed. And then I'm going to lower the other side, so that way we can get that side a nice wipe down, line up some 3M tape as well. And then I'm gonna try to make sure everything lines up. Because I already stuck on the other side, I don't have as much room to play with to make sure everything lines up, but it is what it is. We're gonna make it work.
So that was stressful, especially trying to do it with just being a single person. The jack did come in handy, but yeah, here's the final product, guys. Unfortunately, we didn't get this to line up. I guess where I put the 3M tape, it's actually not making contact. Thankfully though, there are some spots for some self-tapping screws underneath, so I'm gonna hold this in and then try to self-tap it, and hopefully that will be enough to hold it in place. You guys can tell, I did put the exhaust tips back on, so yeah, probably not the best for the finish of the diffuser, but I'd rather have them on, and even if the diffuser gets wrecked in this spot, I don't really care. So we're gonna basically self-tap this in. You guys can see it's literally hitting right up against the exhaust tips. Once that's in its kind of final position, we'll then tighten up the exhaust tips, and then we should be pretty good. Like I said, if you have your factory exhaust, this won't be an issue. These AWE exhaust tips are massive. So what I might even do in the future is get some different exhaust tips and see if that works. Although I do really like the big tips you get with this exhaust, but if we gotta change it up just for it to work, we'll change it up. But anyways, at this point, we're gonna try to put some self-tapping screws in to these various areas. So obviously over here, and then at the edges as well. And we'll try to get these exhaust tips to line up the best we can. And then I'll show you guys the finished product. So like I said, I put some self-tapping screws right in the center over there. I tried to put some on the edges, but they weren't really reaching. So I think the 3M tape is gonna be enough to hold on the sides. What I'm most worried about is the center, but as you guys can tell, it's pretty solid. Now I will say, the exhaust tips are touching the carbon, so that's obviously not ideal. But yeah guys, just check this out. Look how good that looks. Oh my goodness. But like I said, we still have one more mod to install in today's video, and it's gonna go on the rear end. Now, if you guys can't guess what it is, I mean, come on. It's gonna be a spoiler. Now, I know some people are like punching the screen right now because I had a replica Street Hunter wing on this thing, and it was kind of torn. A lot of people liked it, a lot of people didn't. Personally, guys, I did not like it at all. It was too much for this car, and I know a lot of the stuff that I'm putting right now is super aggressive, and it's a lot, but something about that Street Hunter wing just made the car look a little too boxy and a little too JDM for my liking. Like, this all looks aggressive, but it still has a cleaner Euro look to it, whereas again, that Street Hunter wing, it just looked very JDM, and as much as I love JDM, I just don't really want that look on this car. So we have something a lot more subtle and subdued, but still super aggressive. And that's this right over here. A nice subtle, like extended duckbill spoiler for the Supra. Again, this is gonna look aggressive and it's gonna add more character, but it's not gonna be too much, at least not in my opinion. The nice thing too is this should be the easiest thing I install in this entire car. So that's why I kind of left it to the end, because just in case the diffuser beats me up, which ended up doing, I'll have a nice, easier install to wrap up the video. Look at that. Oh my goodness, this spoiler is so sick. Again, it's subtle, but it's still aggressive, and it just flows with that diffuser. Like, the rear end of this thing looks menacing. I feel like with that diffuser and the Street Hunter wing, it just would have been way too much. But this little more subdued spoiler, I think it's perfect. But otherwise, guys, that was a super easy install. And again, just look at the rear end of this thing. That looks insane. And remember, we already installed the front lip, and the side skirts. So this whole thing right now looks absolutely menacing. By the way, I love the fact that you can see the spoiler from here. Oh my God. I'm like falling in love with this car all over again. But like I said, we still have some more stuff from Keys Motorsports. And to go along with that stuff, I even ordered some more stuff. So stay tuned, guys. We have a lot more to do to the Supra still. It's looking so much better. Again, remember, this thing started off its life as a clapped out Supra, and we not only restored it like mechanically, electronically, and then also aesthetically, but now we're modifying it to be this beautiful beast. It's definitely been a journey with this car, but it's been well worth it. The Supra has been and still is one of my dream cars. So to own one is a blessing in itself. And now to own one that looks like this, I mean, come on, that's just unreal. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you drop it a like. It helps me out so much. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, because like I said, there's still a lot more coming for the Supra. And yeah, with that said, this video is pretty much done. And I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
I don't mind if you don't listen that much, but some of y'all don't listen at all. The same they be pushing you.